Tim tells me at least once a week, man, Frank is killing it.
He's crushing it.
I don't know what we're going to do when Frank leaves for the plant, because he's just killing it right now for us. That's a side conversation that Tim has with me that Frank isn't supposed to hear about.
Welcome back to the Practically Pastoring Podcast. My name is Frank, and I'm glad that you are here. The whole gang is here again, and we have an exciting show for you. We're going to be talking about whether or not a teenage girl at the youth group is allowed or should be bringing her newborn child, as well as the infamous, most contentious question in facing churches today: what do we do with paper bulletins? All right, with that being said, I'm here down in Florida. Up in Baltimore, Maryland, we got Jeffrey Simpson.
Hello.
Down in Sumter, South Carolina, we got Delmar P.
Howdy ho.
Currently ranked number 12 in his own March Madness bracket, we got Andrew Larson.
I was number 5.
Number 12?
And
Five.
next to him, we got Timothy Miller.
Hey.
Actually, by the time this episode comes out, the March Madness will be over.
But no, we'll know the final 4 by the time this episode comes out.
He'll still be ranked 12.
Anywho, guys, we are excited still and currently will be forever because we have a sponsor.
Let's go.
Full stop. We're glad we have a sponsor. Second thing is we are glad about our sponsor currently, who is Church Merch. Timothy Miller, tell us about Church Merch.
Merch for your church. Hey, we just used them. We had a giant event at Lakeview. We needed sunglasses. We needed other promotional material, possibly glorious cups. We placed a large order, and Frank, here's the best part. We did not give them a lot of lead time. We kind of did a last second order. They got it not only the art approved, they got it shipped to us and delivered well in time for the event. Hey, if you need last second merch for your church, howcanipray.com, Church Merch, they'll take care of you. Even if you have plenty of lead time, they'll take care of you as well. Reach out to Church Merch at howcanipray.com. You'll find everything you could possibly need for that next event, for that camp, for that retreat. You name it, they got it. Church Merch.
For the conference, we got our mugs and shirts like less than a week after we had approved. So that was crazy fast. And then we got the cups in less than a week, and the sunglasses that we also ordered like pretty quickly after that. So they have really fast turnarounds. It's Jeff, their turnarounds are almost as fast as what we were at Sacrament Media, if you remember back in the day.
I mean, we were like 30-hour turnarounds, and then we'd have to do another 30 hours because we ordered all the wrong color shirts.
Dude. Yeah, that was fun.
Oh, you said me and Jeff black shirts? I thought you said blue shirts. What are we going to do with these 200 blue shirts?
Somehow we gave him a maroon shirt. So, yeah. Me and Jeff owned a t-shirt company back in the day, and we're both glad we don't do that anymore. So, with that being said, we are going to answer our first question here on Reddit. Would you allow a teen to bring her newborn baby to youth group? Well, one of the teens that attend my church had a baby, and she would like to come to youth group with the baby. I don't know what to say about it since I've never encountered this before. We've had young children periodically come to youth group for different reasons. For example, I have a 1-year-old, and my wife brings our baby to youth group sometimes. So I don't know if that makes it seem like the teen should be allowed to bring her baby. What would you do in this scenario? So all of us here have been in youth ministry before. Yeah. So I kind of want you to put your youth pastor hat, but also since we're all kind of in that second or first chair at our churches, and we have youth ministries that we oversee, youth pastors that we oversee, how would you counsel or advise your youth pastor if they were in this situation?
It's kind of hard to be pro-life and anti-baby.
Yep.
So that said, if you think it's going to be a distraction to have a newborn baby at youth group, which I get, I guarantee you that there are women in your church who don't have a role to play on, I'm assuming, youth groups Wednesday night or Sunday night, whatever it is. There's not adult programming right now. There is a group of ladies that maybe threw a baby shower for this teenage girl. At least I hope so. At least I hope the women in the church came and embraced her, that someone would love to rock a baby for an hour at youth group. And so maybe you have the baby there for, worship and games, like, this where a crying baby might not be a distraction, but then for teaching in small group, you have a lady in the church that says, hey, can I, take the baby? There's feeding schedules and things like that that need to be considered. But I guarantee you that you have people in the church that want to help that mom out. So if you have a teenager who just had a baby and wants to be a part of youth group, you want to bend over backwards to make sure that she can be a part of youth group. But you also want some of the other women in the church to step up and alleviate that burden. And that might just end up being the best hour of that girl's week, because the rest of her life now, she doesn't get to be a teenager anymore. She's a mom. She's an adult. She's got adult responsibilities. But if she can have that hour a week where a empty nester or a grandma or someone who has been praying for a baby of their own or a grandchild of their own gets to step in and dote on that baby so that mom gets to just be a teenager in youth group, that is a win for every aspect of the church.
Kudos to your church for her wanting to still come to youth group.
Mm-hmm.
Heck yes.
It says a lot.
I would think through maybe some of the practicality, some of the boundaries here. I'm with you, Andrew. Like whatever we got to do to make this work, to love on this teenager and to help her in this situation. There's probably safety and logistics concerns. That's fair, right? Is your youth room safe for a newborn, for a baby, for an infant? Are there things you can do that could help? Is it going to be a huge distraction to the group? If so, like Andrew said, volunteer support. Like, are there volunteers in the church who could assist, help out, hold the baby? What kind of impacts are going to have on the group? Is it going to be positive, negative? I mean, there's going to be things you have to think through. Your leadership team's going to have to be involved. Your small group leaders will have to be involved. I think you could absolutely include her, have some healthy boundaries in place. There's a huge pastoral component here where you can come alongside and love not only this girl, but this family as well, and show them the Christ-like love in this situation, in this season. If I were you, I would try to designate that volunteer as quickly as possible. Whoever it is going to be a huge help to help care for that baby. Create a family-friendly space. Definitely include her in the small group settings, especially if the large group setting isn't feasible for having the newborn involved. But I think this is going to be a great opportunity for you as the pastor, as the youth pastor, to care for this young mom and to come alongside her. And really, how can you better minister to this family as a whole through this whole process?
Yeah, I like that. And I would just add, when you meet with her, have that person already have had that conversation with the other adult in the church who watched the baby. So that way that girl doesn't, well, we'll find somebody to watch your baby. It shows that you've actually gone out of your way to like already pre-help her. It does something to say, hey, this guy's he really wants to help. And then also help her see, hey, listen, students, we do things. I don't know, maybe you play games or you do some activities. You're not going to be able to fully be present if you got the baby. So what we've gone out of our way to, create this other opportunity. Another thing that I would encourage is, if you have a mom's ministry at your church, like, let them in on it. I don't know about y'all, but our church has a great women's ministry, young moms ministry. If they found that out, that there's this teenage girl out here just trying to figure it out, wanting to come to church, they're going to be loving all on that girl. So the fact of the matter is, whether we want to admit or not, she might be a teenager. She might still be in high school, but she's in a different life stage now. She's dealing with things that the other teens in the youth group are not going to be able to relate to her on certain things. So she's going to need people who are also in that different life stage. She's in this weird dual life stage. If she's still a student, she's still a teenager. She doesn't need to just be abandoned from that group, but she needs to be supported by the other group. So I would encourage the pastor to also say, hey, can I get some other people who are in that same life stage to rally around her and love her through this as well, so she can have more of a holistic approach. And that's probably going to help her draw into your church more, because as we know, a lot of student ministries, they're in a little silo over here by virtue of them being teenagers and different. This is a way to really pull her integrated into the church and show what redemption and restoration looks like.
The reason why missions trips and to some extent summer camps are so impactful for student ministry is because adversity creates unity. And so, like, going on a missions trip where you have to sweat it out and do something very, very hard together will allow the group to feel that kind of adversity, that they are like best friends after the trip, and they feel so much closer to the leaders and things like that. So these type of unique circumstances that aren't clean and polished but are added to your youth group have the potential of really turning this from a youth ministry to a youth group, if that makes sense. Like it's a group of people who see this as home and it's a safe place, and they're working out their life in real time, and not just a ministry of the church in philosophy, but like a ministry of the church in practice. The second thing is this, and this is bigger than this question: have the baby shower. Too many churches, when they have these situations, they like don't have the baby shower because they don't want to enable something or give the wrong impression. But what Andrew said in the beginning was so true. You can't be a pro-life church and not be pro-baby and like actually care for the moms. And they're like, what will speak to the greatest voice in your church on this subject will be how you treat this girl, more than whatever you say in January about how much you love babies and how much money you're giving to the pro-life clinic. By actually allowing this girl to be in the life of your church and making avenues where you're caring for her and for this child is going to speak so much more to even the pro-choice people in your congregation or in your community who are suspicious about this, to see, oh, there is a more beautiful way towards this, that like you could give hope to a young girl who is thinking about having an abortion and say, well, I know a church who took care of a young mom in their community, and that could change the trajectory and save a baby's life. So I think we've all said the same thing. As much as you can, make this work for this young lady to be in the youth group and get your church around. There's going to be women who would love, I would gladly rock this baby for an hour if it means I get to have this girl here.
The one pushback that you're going to get is not what you think it's going to be. The pushback that you're going to get is going to be from moms of other kids in the youth group. The pushback is going to be, well, we don't want our kids to think that this is being rewarded and being celebrated. And there's going to be a tension there, because by having something new and different as a part of the youth group, it's going to get attention. And you're going to have parents that think, you know, maybe this kid should be ostracized to teach my kid a lesson.
Terrible.
And unfortunately, in my experience, it is the moms and dads, it is the families who sometimes align closest to the stated values of the church that really want to use somebody else as an object lesson.
Wow.
This girl is not an object lesson. She is someone who has made a difficult decision, but also there's going to be complications. Once you've had a kid, I don't know if the dad is involved or not, that complicates things. There's a whole lot of messy parts of what this ministry looks like. But remember that she does not exist as a sermon illustration or a talking point for the youth group. This baby is not a mascot. These are people created in the image of God who you get to minister to and serve. And anybody that is pushing back against having them included in the youth group is missing out on the message of the gospel. So include them, do what you need to do, and be prepared for the mess.
I would say that one way, it's not going to be foolproof, to mitigate that is to go to the other parents in the youth group and say, hey, I want you to know what I'm about to do.
Yeah, you're not giving them an option.
Yeah.
You're not saying, hey, what do you think? You're saying, here's what's going to happen.
Yeah. And I wouldn't be surprised that if you did that, if you went to at least a few key parents, if not like, you know, a lot of the parents in the youth group, I wouldn't be surprised by you giving them the heads up and saying like, here's how, like they might suggest how they can help. You know what I'm saying? They might say, bring the baby over to our house on the way to youth group and we'll watch the baby, or whatever the case may be. And then you can have those conversations with those parents who are going to give pushback, because the biggest complaint in youth ministry, when you're actually doing ministry towards teenagers, is going to be the churched parents who wants this like sanitized view of youth group where everything is polished and perfect and there's nothing really messy. And the moment you introduce messy, that's when they want to pull their kid out, because they want to put their kid in such a bubble that like that the world isn't real. And that's the shadow side, the sour side of this. And also, we haven't even talked about this. If you are the youth pastor, like tell your lead pastor what you're about to do, or tell your director, like what you don't want is to do this grand gesture of welcoming this girl, having this baby come to youth group, it getting back to your lead pastor, and then your lead pastor saying, we're not going to do this. Then you have egg on your face. It's going to be way messier. And if the lead pastor is weird about it, like that's a whole other conversation that like is even more disappointing in this. But
if
like
the lead pastor's spouse is weird about it.
Yeah. So all that to say is, I think what you hear from all of us is, man, fight to make this place hospitable for this young lady and this baby, and realize that there will be maybe pushback and difficulties in that, but I would say they're worth it.
One of my good friends got pregnant our junior year of high school, and I was at a Christian school. And, Christian school is different than youth group, but she was not allowed back. She'd been at that school since preschool. It was a preschool through 12th grade school.
Yep.
She was given the option of, why don't you take as many summer school classes as you can so you can graduate, but you cannot, we're not going to let you show up in maternity uniform pants. And it was, as a 17-year-old, it is something that has stayed with me for 25
But Andrew,
years
if they
now.
had a policy in place and this was the policy, of the school,
I
I'm not saying you agree with
I
it,
get
but-
that. But the boy was welcomed back into youth group and church life
Interesting.
as a hero, and she was
hero?
not a
What?
hero, but he was, you're repentant and you're whatever, and life never changed for him, and life changed drastically for her.
Ironically,
So-
if she would have had an abortion, then she
could have
probably
gotten
could have
right
came
back to
back.
Christian school, and no one would have ever known.
Yeah, it's wild.
Yep.
So that's why, if you're gonna be
Freaking
pro-life,
sick.
you got to be pro-mom and pro-baby.
Yeah.
It's good.
And pro-marriage of people that probably can't afford it yet. That's okay.
Yeah. This is good. Let's go to the next question. The title is Help, Paper Bulletin. I love that.
QR code, done.
Question: how do you all share your events, announcements, monthly or weekly? We are looking to get away from our monthly bulletin. So they already are doing monthly, not weekly. Currently, we have a monthly bulletin, a weekly announcement email, a website page that is updated weekly, and our social media is currently used as a bulletin. I think we need to get with the times and rework how we get info out. Help, please. I think that two things. One is, I think you should actually not use social media as a bulletin. This is not just like Brady Shear best practices conversation. I think when you think about how you use social media, what post do you skip the fastest? Things with a bunch of text talking about what's happening, like it's just like you're already utilizing social media in a way that like you're not interested in it. That means the people in your church are not interested in that either. So I would actually just focus in your social media of like helping people like take their next step in their faith or like go deeper with the Lord, or just post a lot of pictures about your people and like the beauty of your church. Does that make sense? But I would say this, and can we let's be like practical, because like this is something that is like me and Tim are like engaging with this at Lakeview often, where people are complaining to us
All the time.
about wanting a bulletin. And like I realize now that I got hired at the same time the church started going deeper with Church Center, the Church Center app on Playing Center, and that's a big learning curve for people to say like, oh, there's a church app, but it's called Church Center, and it kind of has a lot of the information. And the reality is these type of like digital tools are really great because it's more current and it has more information than any paper bulletin could ever have. But man, older folks. And I say that not to dismiss older folks, but that's the reality of the people who are complaining the most in our church.
We get a lot of pushback.
And I'm assuming that that's probably what's happening here, is that they want a physical bulletin. And so I'm sure everyone here has an opinion on this. I'll say this. I want to eliminate as much paper waste as possible from my day-to-day process when it comes to church and things like that. However, as Andrew has said since like episode 3 of this podcast, pastor the church you have, not the church you want. And if there's a reality where paper bulletins is the mechanism in which communication is the clearest way to get to the people that you have, it might be the thing that you might need to stick with. But if there's a pathway out of it, then you just need to be ready that for a long time, people are going to say, Pastor, I missed the paper bulletin. And you're going to have that conversation. And like literally every week I'm saying, I will personally help you on your phone find Church Center and show you how to use it one-on-one, if that means you use it. And it's been an uphill battle. Guys, what do you got?
Well, I would just say pastorally, there's a very big difference between the conversation of, Pastor, I really missed a bulletin, and I demand a bulletin. Those are two different things. If I'm getting,
which
hey,
we've had both
bulletin,
at Lakeview.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, if I'm getting, hey, I missed a bulletin, I mean, I will just be like, yeah, I understand, and then that's the last time I think about that. If it's I demand this, then that's much more of a pastoral issue where it's like this is starting to be kind of selfish behavior. So for us, we eliminate. We haven't had a paper bulletin since I've been here in 8 years. And they used to have one every week. So we just it just started not happening the week I showed up, and I just never started doing it. So we've used a number of different methods. We have Church Center. We were using Clearstream for a long time, which is, first we were using MailChimp, doing a weekly email, along with a weekly blog on the church website. And nobody was reading it. So I was like, why am I doing this? And then I was also doing video updates, and not many people were watching it, which, video updates is a good hour and a half, 2 hours of per week. So we started doing text message updates with Clearstream more recently, and that worked really well. And then we figured out that Glue is free. And so we've moved everything over to that. Now, in my church, I realize I have a very unique situation. In a church of 50-ish people, I have a person who has high-level communications training and skill. Like, she oversees the communications for a big Christian radio station here. So her and I actually had a phone call where we just talked about what our communications needs are and how we're communicating. We do announcements in service, but we try to keep them brief. And basically, we decided, we set some goals for what we want to do. And this year, we're going to just focus all of our attention on YouTube and growing that. And so social media for us, really, we don't do very much with social media other than we exist on there and we post pictures once in a while. But I've stopped doing multiple posts a week, and I've stopped doing, I was doing Sunday social graphics, and it wasn't doing anything for us. It wasn't making more engagement. So we just kind of are there's no reason to keep doing that. We're growing right now, and none of it's because of social media. So for us, I think the only channel of communication I'm worried about is internal, making sure people know things and have announcements. And so we use Church Center for all of our calendar stuff, and then we are switching over to Glue as far as text message reminders about things. So for us, it's been just keep it very simple, and we just don't have a culture of a church where people expect a bulletin. Now, we have printed things for new people. We have about our church. We have things I can hand people. And the question about older folks wanting things hard printed, yes, when we had an annual meeting a couple weeks ago, and I referenced the bylaws, the statement of faith, the vision, mission, value document, and said, those are all on our church website. Here's how you get there. And I had a couple people say, well, can you print me a couple copies? I'd like that I'd like a hard copy. And when that happens, I'm just going to print it. I'm not going to have a fight over that with a couple people. Now, I caveat all that with my church is small. So maybe this would be more of an issue if there were more people. And frankly, if more of the older folks who want printed stuff were talking to each other about how much they want printed stuff, I can see how that could start to make a little bit of a movement if we need printed whatever.
Jeff, real quick, so Glue, we were just saying it's spelled GLOO, right?
Correct.
Can you explain, because you said it's free, can you explain more about this? Because I've seen ads for this. I don't understand. So it's a text messaging service for your church. Text messaging
service for churches. Yeah. So you can import a list of people from Planning Center. It has integration with Planning Center, which was the tipping point for me to move from Clearstream. So Clearstream, I had to buy credits. And as far as I can tell right now, Glue is free.
I think there's up to 10,000 messages a month,
which is way more than I'll ever need.
Yeah.
So yeah, you just import a list of people or get them. The thing I can't figure out right now with Glue, and I've delegated this. So one of my goals for 2025 is delegating a bunch of things on my plate. This is one of them. So I have to have a meeting before I know what's happening with this again. But with Clearstream, there was a text opt-in, which was cool. You could text a phone number, a keyword, and opt into that list. I don't either I don't see it in the menus. I haven't spent a ton of time looking for that in Glue, but I don't see that as an option. But there's workarounds to that. You could do a form in Planning Center and have someone manually add someone to a list or whatever. But yeah, Glue seems to be great. It's like a 1-800 number that you have, and they can respond. So that's kind of cool too. There are some text services where it's one way. Glue seems to be two-way, and there's some like prayer things built into it. But like you guys said, part of it, my wife told me yesterday that one of the younger folks in our church said they appreciated how we actually use technology. But there is a sense in which, like, I'm with you if you feel a little bit overwhelmed by it, because holy cow, dude, I feel like I am using $20 worth of $1,000 of, a program. Like Planning Center can do so much stuff. And I just feel like I could literally spend like 20 hours a week just figuring out how to use Planning Center the best, most efficient possible way. At some point, there's a point of like, it's not worth the time anymore to keep messing with the system. So we use some workflows, we use lists, we use Planning Center quite a bit, but there are things that Glue can do that I'm not sure we'll ever use because we use it in Church Center already, like the prayer request part of the thing. But I see a lot of potential there, and I like the fact that a text message is plain text, and it's like they're going to get a push notification because a text message is going to come through.
And so tell me, on a consistent basis, how are you using this app? Like, what are you communicating through it?
I will just do like on Thursdays, sometimes I will do like a weekly reminder. Here's the things coming up this week. And then if there's a special event, we'll push a text out for that. So, hey, Easter egg hunt's coming up, or hey, church, the heat's not working. Or sometimes I'll record a YouTube short and put the link from that YouTube short in that text.
That's pretty sweet. I mean, I've seen ads for this. I've kind of just ignored it because I don't think I've ever needed a text messaging service, or I knew it was a messaging service, and I've used so many different ones in the past. I'm like, it's very expensive, or it's like the pricing structures tend to be in such a it's not advantageous as in the pricing structures.
I think I think there's an opportunity inside of Glue as well to like. I think there's like a notes on each like contact section. So that could be for somebody who's like a church planner and you don't have Planning Center yet. That's almost robust enough to be somewhat of a beginner like membership database where you at least have a name and a phone number for most people.
This is very interesting. I didn't know you used this, and so this is actually really cool.
There's lots of things you don't know about me.
What else, guys? Like Andrew, your church. Do you guys use bulletins?
We do.
They mail postcards. What you talking about?
You did.
We quit at COVID, and people were weird about stuff being passed out.
Sure.
And we just never came back from it. So we have an announcement time at the beginning of service that's kind of fun and lighthearted. So if there's big things coming out, we have a prayer card that we update every month that has kind of a calendar on it. So it's hey, we kind of rotate through different families in the church, how we want to be praying for these families and these ministry partners. So we have one of those that goes out every month that people can get. The idea is you put it on your dashboard or on your fridge or something. So it's specifically a prayer card, but then the back of it has a calendar of events.
Is that something you print yourself? Do you just print that in-house, like on paper? Nice.
Just cardstock. And there have been talks of, could we make it prettier? But then the third of a sheet of cardstock seems to be the perfect size. So that's worked out well for us. We don't use MailChimp because our email server is Bluehost, which is terrible, but that's another story for another day. And Bluehost does not work with MailChimp. So I use a MailChimp competitor called
Constant Contact?
No, called Mailer. Mailer. Mailer Lite is what it's called. It's kind of like Miller Lite.
But Mailer Lite.
Mailer Lite, yeah.
Less carbs.
Do you call your newsletter It's Mail Time? Because that'd be awesome.
I don't.
It's mailer time.
It's
mailer time. Yeah, sorry, it's mailer time.
No, it's just it's an email that's Safety Harbor Community Church email update. And typically once per series. So it's not like a weekly blast because I was doing that at one point. And, you get the stats and we were getting 15, 16% open rates when there was an email going out every single week. But with the once a series or once a month emails, I get 60 or 70% open rates on those. So we do, when there's something big going on, we send out an email, we make announcements in church and post as necessary. But like Jeff said, there's not a ton of people. I think our total list is 120 adults. So, and that's, there's nothing that's going on that's too big that we can't let everybody know by just letting our people know kind of organically.
I think if there's going to be a shift in how you communicate, you're going to have to lay down some goals. Like I don't think the goal is, hey, let's add more platforms. Like let's add more communication channels. Like you don't just want to add more things you have to do every week, kind of like what Jeff was saying, but you do want to have like a goal of, hey, we need our people to hear about these things on a regular basis. And that's something that Lakeview has struggled with for a long time. I think Frank and we hear this all the time. Well, I didn't know about that. And there's a reality there that you're going to hear no matter what, no matter how many ways you communicate something or that event or that next thing, someone's always going to come to you and say, well, I had no idea. And you could respond, well, did you read the email? Did you listen to the announcements this past Sunday? Did you see the social media posts we had talking about that specific thing that you said you had no idea about? Like, did you actually go looking for that? So what Frank has been doing in these last 2 months is kind of helping us. He's helped us clarify the goals when it comes to our communication strategy. So Frank, you recently took over our emails as well. And you've kind of streamlined those. And I'm looking at our rates right now, which we're at close to 60% open rates. And since you took over, like the open rate has actually gone up quite a bit because you have kind of streamlined what that email looks like. So I was hoping, Frank, tell us a little bit about why the shift. Tell us, and I'll just be honest with you, the Lakeview email has not looked good for a while. And we've just been kind of doing it to do it because it was just one of the things we did every week. And then Frank, you were like, hey, do you mind if I take a stab at this? And now it looks completely different. It's a whole new format. And people, for the first time ever, have responded saying, wow, I really like the format of this email, which is a really funny email to get in response to an email. But we had multiple people reach out saying, can we please have this style email every single week now?
Tim tells me at least once a week, man, Frank is killing it. I don't know
He's crushing it.
I don't know what we're going to do when Frank leaves for the plant because he's just killing it right now for us. That's a side conversation that Tim has with me that Frank isn't supposed to hear about. And
Frank,
I'm always
you can
like,
hear it. I've been super impressed. Our people have been super impressed. So Frank,
he says a lot of really good things.
Can you just tell us like what you saw with the previous email, what was wrong with it, and now why you made this shift to this new communication style?
Yeah, I think you got so Lakeview sends a weekly email. And the weekly email has like a lot of stuff in it, and
everything,
and it has the same issues that almost every church newsletter type of issues. It's a lot of bunch of images, not formatted well, sometimes clip art, different fonts, a lot of colors, very busy. And
Frank, you told me, let's take out all the images. Trust me, this is going to work. And I was like, whatever you say, bud.
Yeah. And so I did something that, like, again, might be like a Brady Shearer, thing, but like he talks about how the way to win email is plain text. Like kind of stripping all the images. And it sounds counterintuitive because you have so many tools in MailChimp and things like that. Mm-hmm. But literally, if it looks like as simple as possible, you have a higher success rate of people reading it and engaging with it. And so right now, I stripped everything away, white background, black text. The only image in there besides the church logo is the image of the sermon with a brief little recap of the sermon.
It's kind of a sermon-centric email to lead, and people have been really gravitating.
And I think that makes sense in our church, where I would say 80% of the people, when I ask them why they come to Lakeview, they say they like the preaching. It's centered around the sermon. So I was like, okay, that seems to be a value. That would be a good thing to put up top of like, hey, if you want to rewatch it, here's a brief recap and here's a link to it. And then below it is like the pertinent issues or things that are happening in the church that week. So right now we're promoting the 30th anniversary celebration and then a couple like ministries and things like that. And then towards the bottom, this is something that like Lakeview does. I don't know if I would do it, but I think it makes sense why Lakeview does it, is they give a giving recap every week. So like,
here's where we're at in relation to the budget. We're either over or under. Here's where the giving was the previous week, and here's total attendance.
Yeah. So and that actually, the formatting of that hasn't changed. It's just a different color. So that's there. And then the constant links, where they pray, how to serve, that kind of stuff. And it's the email in terms of length is about 6 inches shorter because there's not a lot of graphics and stuff like that. Sure. And I think it's a little bit more easier on the eyes. But all that to say is, I think this is an example of let's contextually figure out what makes sense for Lakeview,
right?
And go that way. And I think right now the weekly email is making sense for Lakeview, and I think slimming it down has been a good call. At least for the last 2 weeks, it has been.
And I do think if you're going to move away from the bulletin, you're going to hear this. It's going to be a pretty consistent complaint that, man, I really miss that bulletin. So to show them the value of whatever new tool it is that you're using instead of the bulletin. So for us at Lakeview, it's the Church Center app, and Frank has done a great job every week, either on stage or in our announcement video, of saying, hey, if you have no idea what this is, come find me. I'll be in the courtyard right after service. Each one, I'll be there. I will help you personally walk through this. And I don't know if anybody's taken you up on that offer, but the offer is there every single week. We will help you figure this thing out if you can't figure it out.
Yeah, I've had a couple of people I've helped already, but I will say, like Jeff said, technology is getting a little overwhelming from this side, like the person making the stuff. I think, though, I can understand that sometimes we get a little QR code crazy, and there's QR codes everywhere. And I think the issue is, like, I just saw this on a flyer that someone made at Lakeview. It was a QR code, but there's no context to what the QR code's for.
Just a QR code.
And you just know it's vaguely about this ministry, but you don't know if this is a QR code to register for something, if it's to buy something.
Scan this, you'll find out.
And literally, it's like a mystery. It might give me a virus. I don't know.
You're gonna get rickrolled.
And yeah. So I do think we can sometimes go a little too crazy on QR codes. However, guys, at the conference, and I think I'm going to post this online eventually, we had a pastor named Tommy Colonin, who is his rap name is Urban D, because this guy's Suburban A. His name is Urban D. He's a pastor at Crossover Church in Tampa, and they do this thing where they use it's called NFC tags. Right? And is it called NFCs? I think it's something.
NFTs?
Right. It's not NFTs. I don't know. But basically, you can tap your phone on the thing and it takes you to that form or it takes you to that page. And I do think that is a very interesting.
And you can change it whenever. So one day it goes to a giving page. One day it goes to the program. If you're letting a school use your space for a graduation or whatever.
Yeah. So I do think that that's really interesting. I think it's called DOT or dot tag.
Dot tags.
Something like that. I think it's called dot tags. I should have preemptively looked this up, but I do think the tap to links is going to be more intuitive than a QR code, because right now you're telling Androids and Apple users to pull out their phone, open their camera app, aim it at the QR code, aim it in a way where the link pulls up. Like, there's a lot where tapping is a little bit easier. And then you probably have less accusations of the mark of the beast in certain denominations, in certain churches with QR codes. But I will say the help in this situation is you're going to be in an uphill battle, man. Like, it's going to be like, if people are, a lot of people think bulletins is better, and it's hard to push up against that because they don't see that the information they want, it doesn't change as often as they think it changes.
And we were throwing away 300 bulletins every Sunday. Like,
oh, that's the worst. Especially if you have multiple services, you need someone who just their job is to walk between.
That's what we were doing.
The pews or the chairs.
We were collecting them to just repurpose, and then we were throwing them away again at the end of the service.
Yeah. I
did like seeing my cool. If I worked really hard on a sermon graphic, I liked seeing that on the bulletin. That always made me feel good.
Yeah,
it's the little things.
Or seeing your name printed, like, this is Andrew's sermon today. That's really sweet.
But the funny thing is
Dr. Larson would have looked great.
I would have. Dang it! I did it too soon. Got rid of him. We're okay with not having bulletins for week-to-week services. But if there is a wedding, we want to program. If there's a funeral, we want to program.
Yeah.
People still want them for special events.
Yeah,
it's fine.
We'll see. Hey, well, this has been a good episode. If you have any questions, make sure you reach out to us. Again, we have Instagram, we have Facebook, we have a Facebook group,
we have email. All of the ways that you can do your church bulletin replacement is a way that you can contact us.
Yeah. And we would love to keep this conversation
going. Send us
going.
A postcard. We'll send you one back.
Yeah,
sure.
Every door direct mailing. We love that.
Yep.
If you have any questions, please reach out, and we'll be here, Lord willing, same time, same place next week. I'm Frank Gill.
I'm Jeff Simpson.
I'm Delmar Pete.
I'm Andrew Larson.
And I'm Timothy Miller.
This is Practically Pastoring. Bye.